All right, Don, what are we going to be talking about tonight?
Well, I'll give everybody an update on our building. You've probably seen it in different stages. We've got it dried in. We got our tank inside. We got the tank filled Friday. And Stephen will start taking orders. So if anybody wants to get totes of syrup or buckets, you can bring your own buckets or Stephen will furnish buckets. And price, you have to negotiate that with Stephen. I'm not doing any of the handling of that. I got enough going on. But it's a convenience, because most places, if you're trying to get syrup right now, we was buying it way out of South Georgia, and we was wasting 3 hours drive time each way to get it. So we're up by Crawfordville, just south of Athens, Georgia. And if you need syrup, bring your tote. Hopefully later on, we'll start getting a connection to get a bunch of clean totes to resell to people that need them. And I'm still doing classes down there, and we do classes down there usually Fridays and Saturdays. Sometimes I go down there on Thursday, try to get a little stuff done before students show up. But one thing we're doing this year, because I don't know, it's exceptionally hot and humid, I've been redoing a lot of my 5-frame boxes, and might sound silly to people, but I'm taking some of the ones that the old ones that had 3/4 hole or 7/8. I'm drilling an 1.5-inch hole in the front, and I'm drilling an 1.5-inch hole in the back, and I'm covering them with number 8 hardware cloth. And we're getting about 90% less bearding in 95, 97. It was 97 degrees the other day. And the diamatrix earth that I'm using, it seems to be doing pretty good as far as treatment for beetles and that. There's a lot of treatments that I've mentioned about the beetles. Those political signs work, but everything we're doing is we're moving more efficient and more efficient. The borax or boric acid in the political signs with the Crisco to seal it, it does kill the bees, but it's a maintenance problem. You have to go in there every 30 days or every 6 weeks, and the bees will start to propolize those holes on the political signs. So it's maintenance versus time. It's like we had students down this week, and they made a comment, what happened to all your hive top feeders? And I said, well, I'll show you where they are. I showed them a couple of stacks of them. And I said, well, just think about when you lift that lid up and you take a 3/8 hose and stand there and fill it. Now, I can take 3 buckets, or a student can take 3 buckets in each hand, walk down these rows and just bump the old empty one and then set a bucket there. I said, it's huge time saver is what it is. So that's what we're doing too, is we're moving and helping students be more efficient in the bee yard. I'm still doing my telescoping lids. Stephen has got to where he don't even do that no more. He's just taking Vantec, spraying one side, and just laying it flat. After about 3-4 days, the bees will propolize it down. It's just adding up all that extra movements that you do in the bee yard. I mean, it's all fine and great. It looks good for telescoping or migratory lids. But when you start adding up 400, 500 hives per yard, Stevens increased about close to 2,000 this year alone, and going to be increasing more, in December and February. You just have to shave corners. And some of my students had started out with me with 20 or 25 hives, and a year later, 2 years later, they can understand how we're shaving time on everything. So hopefully somebody might have some questions, and I might be able to give them some answers, give them some help. One thing has been brought up 3 or 4 times now in the last 2 weeks is the Ross rounds, and the fact people got goldenrod and they hate it, they can't sell it. And I mentioned put it on Ross rounds, and people act like it's totally strange that you can't do it. You got to have a strong hive. I says, get a hold of Paul. Paul tried it. He's a believer. He'll tell you can make money with it. So let's get some questions going.
All right, Paul's up anyways. Come on, Paul. What are you going to tell us about Ross rounds?
I'll show you right here. I harvest some today, and I got some nice ones.
Oh yeah,
I just want to say that
yeah,
why those
good.
plants gone. Those 5
You're
frame
breaking,
nukes, they'll fill them right up. And I can't.
you're
Can you hear
breaking up a
me?
little bit. No, you're breaking up a little bit.
All right.
Oh, try it again.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks, Don, because it works out great for me.
I'm glad it's working out, and you're an example to other beekeepers that you don't need a 10-frame double deep to produce comb honey.
Yep,
And it's a money
that's for
maker.
sure.
It's a gold mine, and it's easy. You don't need a pickup truck. The nice thing about Ross Rounds, I've done several videos on them. A person can have a van or an SUV, go to his bee yard and change out 2 or 3 supers at a time. Don't need no extractor. Just go in there. If you pull a 5-frame nuke box, it's got the Ross Rounds in, and 3 of the frames in the middle are filled out and the rest ain't. Just change the frames out. You're back in business again. All you have to do is just trim around the edges of those rings, snap your lids on, put the label of your choice on there, and you're ready to go. It's in
Yep.
high demand.
Yeah, I just want to say also, if anybody has any questions with them and they want to message me, that's fine. But don't message me for a copy of the plans or the dimensions. You're gonna have to get those from Don's website.
Thank you.
Good plug. Thanks, Paul. All right, over to Dennis. Go ahead, Dennis.
All right.
Get on mute, Dennis. There you go.
Okay, got one question, and one learned the hard way. I made Paul. I made some beautiful Ross rounds. Every round circle in it, whole box was filled. There wasn't a gap. One problem.
Don't tell me you smoked the Hive too much.
No. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
No, I left one side with the ring off.
Oh,
You know, they're awful hard to get out of there if you leave one ring off.
they seem to be.
Just ruined it. I said, oh. So I'm cutting them up, putting them in pint jars with the honey, and I put another box out there and let them draw it again.
Yeah.
I seen everybody got on YouTube. So what in the world? They were coming out just nice and beautiful. Not mine. And then it dawned on me.
Well,
No wonder I had extra parts. Next
it's a
time I'll
learning
read the
thing.
directions.
Learning thing is all it is.
Well, Dennis, a tip also, don't try to pry them out. Push them out from the back, because it's a tight fit in there to begin with, you know, and you won't damage the rounds if you push them out from the rear. If you try to pry them up with your Hive tool, you'll probably snap the tabs off of the frames.
I'm trying to stay with you. My volume is messing up a little bit. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll hold it until I get through. Don, I think it was Greg, I guess last time we had an after chat, asked a question, and I want to get your opinion on it. The question basically, Bill, is how many resource hives do you recommend to have if you're going to, in your yard, if you're going to do nukes and queens and stuff? Do you have a percentage you like? Because most of the time, you know, we're running right to the wire, stretching all the resources. Any suggestions?
Well, other than I run several junk boxes in my bee yards to call frames out, and then I try to run plenty of resource boxes, you'll just never have enough. Now, we set up 100 down there in March 1st, and I only ended up with about 16 resource hives. And I got 2 down there that are 2 deeps and 1 medium on, because we do a lot of medium selling of the nukes, so I can reach in there and grab a frame of honey and then throw a queen cell in there and start another medium. But we're selling really faster than we can even produce the bees. I was hoping to turn that yard to about 500. I got up to a little over 230, I think, and it just fell in. I mean, the sales, I can't stop them. I mean, we sold out so much that I got the hives so weak, I probably lost about 15 to beetles. Got in there and they got real weak. So I started watching and seeing what's going on. And the ones that was bearding, I started doing some experimenting, and I re-drilled some of the smaller holes and put the 1.5 inch in and just put hardware cloth across there. and it just does a whole lot better. They seems like they get a lot more cross ventilation that way. And actually, we had some students down there, and they seen some of the new ones that I drilled, and they asked if that hole was too big. And I said, the bees will propolize that shut if it's too much ventilation. But we had some bad wind down there, and I had a problem with about 40, maybe 70 buckets blew off. Some of the hives that did get rained on, I was surprised. The bees, the 5-frame boxes, they were still okay. They must have had their umbrellas on, I guess.
Well, I'm just curious. I'm building up a lot of resources this year. I may go through the winter with a little less nukes, so I'll have the resources to make some come spring. Because I got too greedy. I've got to build up. I've turned them away right now. So,
well,
trying to build up.
Turn them away. I'll tell you. Once you get your name out there, and then you got a regular customer for several years, and they bring 2 of their friends there, and it's hard to say no. I ain't got none. And you look around your yard, you got all these boxes in rows and rows. You know, it's just like honey.
Yeah. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
No other hands up. Come on, people. Gotta be.
They wait till I leave when they want to talk.
They do. They'll stay for 2 hours on here after you leave. Looks like Ernest got something for us. Go ahead, Ernest. Unmute.
Still muted.
Still muted, Ernest. There you go.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I just want to put a little plug in for one thing. You need to be doing your mite treatment now. It's time of year to do the mite treatment. And I had one of the Provacs, and I end up building it, but the O-rings keeps failing. So I sent for that Johnny's Easy Vac.
Mm-hmm.
And it's $155, and it gives you 4 different things. And what I like about it, I don't know where I can show it to you or not, but these caps here, they're flexible, and when you turn it over, it drops it down below this stem where it comes out, and that way it makes it it don't clog up on you. And these things sealed, you can push it and make it tighter and tighter. And I just want to put a little plug in for him, because the first one I bought, it was stowed on my mailbox. So I contacted the post office, and they said it was delivered to my box. And I called Johnny Thompson, or Johnny Oliver, and I told him I wanted another one. Send me another one. I said, you got my numbers. So he sent me another one, and there's no cost. I said, well, it wasn't your fault. You have my numbers. He said, well, he didn't want to hold me up any, and so I told him I'd mention his name. He said, don't bother. I got more work than I can do. So, but usually if you want something done, get the busiest person out there. Somehow you'll get it done. So that's why
you say the caps
that's
are
why Don
flexible.
gets
Did
much
you have
done,
a
you know?
ProVat before? Did you have a ProVat before, Ernest?
Yeah, I made it, and I bought those bed, but the O-rings keeps going and it leaks so much.
Oh, well, that's what I was wondering about. See, they sent me one, and I don't remember if it had O-rings on it or not. But I didn't have no problem with it leaking or nothing.
Yeah.
I remember when you go to load it, you got to have your leather gloves on it, and you set it on top of the hive and just kind of tap it down, and it stays in there. It never falls out. But you mentioned that those plugs are flexible. I just wonder if they fell out.
No, these here is, that's real solid. See it? Matter of fact, it almost holds the whole thing up. You can push it down and make it tighter and tighter. And it's only 275 watts, so it don't take too much to run it. And it comes pre-programmed, so you can do it in like about a half a minute.
Yeah.
Half a minute.
That's what I was going to ask you, if you had used the ProVat and then compared that one, because The ProVap I done a demonstration out here. And on the 5-frame, I can do one every 30 seconds. If I got a student loading those caps, I can do 2 a minute. I
Well,
mean, it stays hot. It goes right down the road.
he sends you these caps. He sends you 4, and he's only $2.50 a piece.
Yeah,
And I think I paid around $17 for them when I bought them. I think they're less than that now
yeah.
for the ProVac. So I've got like 10 of them. I can have 10 of them ready to go, and I can do 10 hives. And then if I had someone helping me, I could go right on down the line, you know.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. If you have someone setting them already loaded on top of the hive ahead of you, as fast as you go down through there, you can really, do it. That was one of the best advantages on our out yards. Because if we got 100 nukes at a yard or 150, we can go through there just nothing flat. The hand vaporizer that we used to sell, it does a good job. It just, the heat up and the cool down is just too long a cycle. So about 3 to 4 minutes sometimes.
Right. But this here, being as low wattage as it is, it wouldn't take too much to run it if you want to get a converter, put on your vehicle. It wouldn't take too much to operate it.
Well, I bought one of those portable generators, and it works good with a 100-foot extension cord. I can set it about midway of one of my bee yards, and with a 100-foot cord, I can go up and down the rows, and it runs real cheap. The Harbor Freight Specials, less than $100 on sale. I've been happy with it. It does the job.
Yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. So if anyone's needing one, that's a place to go, and you can find him on YouTube. And
if you don't have one and you're going to use one for spring, order it now.
Yeah, he sold out. He was like a month or 2 behind last spring, so order them now if you're going to need one.
Yeah,
All right.
the virus has got everything going way behind.
Anything else, Ernest?
no, well, I lost my smoker. Did anyone see a smoker floating around? So I had a queen tonight sold, and I said, well, I'll just go in there. And they was nice to me. I didn't use a smoker and went in, no problem at all, and caught the queen for him. So old age, I guess that's what it is. It creeps in, and
Oh, you'll find it eventually.
things gets lost right under your nose sometimes. Well, that's all I have for now.
Okay, over to Andrew. Go ahead, Andrew.
Hey, how are you tonight? I wanted to expand upon resource hive. I keep hearing people say resource. Like, how do you determine what is your resource hive? Is it just like a really good hive that you have too many frames and you're like afraid it's going to swarm, or what?
Just like you would a regular honey hive. Are you planning on selling bees?
I'm kind of figuring it out right now.
Okay, well, see, when you're talking about the resource hive, most of us are selling bees. So if we have a 5-frame hive or 5-frame nuke that we're selling, we'll go in there and check it. If it needs extra honey, then we'll go to a resource hive, pull a frame of honey out or a frame of pollen and put it in the nuke. Make sure it's good for the customer. Or if it doesn't have enough brood, you want 2 to maybe 2.5 frames, 3 frames of brood at least in there. So if you got some cool nights and you got some brood that's not fully capped off, you want to boost it up, that's where you get your resource hive. And a junk hive is where you go through your hives. If you got frames, got a lot of stretched wax, too much drones in it, you put it in a junk hive without the queen and just let it build up. Usually run those double, and then all your junk, as those bees hatch out, it turns into another hive. Then you transfer all that stuff into a 5-frame box and sell it with a new queen, and then melt the stuff down that needs melting down.
Gotcha. So if you run a 5-frame nuke, it's not necessarily like an 8 or a 10-frame that you just keep around to take some, or is it just?
No, we run several hundred at a yard. I mean, they're for making money.
You got lots of resources. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, over to Tommy. Go ahead, Tommy.
Hey, Don. Hey, so I've seen one of your older videos with you treating with the ProVap, and I noticed you're not closing the entrance off in that video, and I'm wondering, do you still not do that? And if so, are you adding a little extra OA to
No,
to
I
compensate for what you lose out of the front of the hive?
don't believe you lose any. Uh, Everything, when you're doing commercial, everything is geared around time. Time is your killer. And I have tried 1 or 2 hives, drilling them out. It takes time to drill that hole in the back. I believe you get enough force with that ProVap, and I don't know about any of the other models, but a ProVap blows it in there just like a flogger. And as soon as it hits in there, the bees want to disperse it. So they start beating their wings, and they blow it all around the hive. You know, it's very efficient. Um, I don't see even putting the rag in it with that ProVap. I mean,
No, I don't close the entrance off any either. I started out doing it with a rag, and
Yeah.
what I encountered was that the bees did not like that. They would sting that rag, and I'd have a rag full of stingers, and carrying that thing hive to hive, I just had a bunch of pissed off bees because of that rag.
yeah.
So yeah, I just didn't know if you added a little extra to compensate, or you just
Well, you know, you're going to have to look at it and visually look at them. If you got a hive you're using a standard treatment on, and it's 3 boxes or 4 boxes high, you know, you want to go back and check it in about 8 to 10 days and see if you're getting the treatment and any effect at all. Usually you can watch after you've done one, get down the road, second, the third, fourth box, look at some of the first boxes that you treated. A lot of the bees are going to come out and look like they've been in a snow fight. They're right dusty looking. You know, you got a good, you know, treatment then.
okay. And one other thing, could you talk a little bit more about how you're treating the hive beetles with the diatomaceous earth? I know you're like mixing it with Crisco and rubbing it
No,
or something.
I was doing that a year, 2 years ago. I'm constantly changing and doing things more efficiently. What we was doing is taking a 3-pound can of Crisco, what you're referring to, and we was putting about a half a cup of diatomaceous earth in it. And then the diatomaceous earth is white. Crisco is white, so it's hard to tell if you got a good mix. And we were just dropping 2 or 3 drops of food coloring in there. So that way, when you mix it, when it looks like it's blended good, then you know you got it mixed. And then we'd take a rubber spatula and get about a tablespoonful on and put a dab in each corner, and then take that spatula and just make a thin coat all across the bottom board. We had good luck with it, but what we're doing now is, as we crack the lids now, we're taking, it looks like a ketchup bottle. It looks exactly like a ketchup bottle, and put diatomaceous earth in it, and we just tap it across the back of the frames. And it just comes out in a little trail-like an amount of about a quarter of a teaspoonful. And that seems to be the most efficient, easiest way.
So just
And we
pure
use
diatomaceous
diatomaceous
earth.
under the hive. Yeah. Yeah. You
So
know,
it's not, it doesn't hurt the bees?
I'm selling bees all the time.
Well, I mean, obviously, yeah.
No,
Okay.
I mean, no. There's a lot of things that's going to hurt bees, but it's not killing bees, if that's what you're referring to.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, no other questions? Don, weren't you also adding a like eucalyptus oil or something to that mix with the
Oh,
Crisco?
for the honey brood builder?
No, for the, I thought you were adding an oil or something to the Crisco with the diatomaceous earth.
That was 5 or 6 years ago. You was rolling up Crisco and powdered sugar and put a little eucalyptus in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I mentioned wear latex gloves, because the eucalyptus will burn you. You
Got it.
remember that part of it?
Yep, okay.
It's like our feeders. You know, I had students talking about the feeders down there. And
Mhm.
they said, why you've been redesigning these feeders for so long? You got 10, 15 different designs out there. I said, everything's motivated around speed. I said, the buckets good through these rows. I mean, we was cutting 4x4s and 4x6s to set beehives on.
Mhm.
Efficiency is what pays money. And right now we can get a truckload, a semi-load of trusses, and we can put a little brick under each corner. And for $300 and $400 a semi-load, I mean, you could set up 500 or 600 hives, and it's a lot cheaper than standard cutting wood.
Mhm.
So
Nice. Yeah, I see you don't use those high top feeders anymore. Those are nice stools in your yard.
yeah, there for a backyard beet. Okay, we had some new students down there, and we was talking about it. I
Mhm.
said they work great. We went from the milk jugs to that shoe box, because the shoe box holds about 1.5 gallons. I said, but stop and think about your movements. You've got to lift the lid, you've got to hose, you've got to pressurize it and pump the syrup in it, It will take you about 3 to 5 minutes to fill up an inch and a half or a gallon and a half, where you can walk with 3 buckets in each hand and just bump the bucket and replace it with a full bucket and pick up your empty buckets. I mean, it's time management is all it's amounting to. It's business on high tech, I guess.
Okay. We got a question now over to Matt. Go ahead, Matt, unmute, and then you're good.
You got to get unmuted, Matt.
Still muted.
You're still muted.
Keep trying. All right, we'll come back to you. I think Edward has a question. Go ahead, Edward.
Yeah, I missed on what you were saying about what size holes you're using on your boxes.
I'm using 1.5 inches right now.
Okay, now you got your boxes set on a flat board, no front entry.
Yeah, right. I got to hit front entry. Now, some of the shipping boxes, which they have a solid bottom, you know, it's just the box is got a flat piece of plywood. It's not a standard build up 3/4 raised up from the bottom. Okay. Now, the ones that's got the 3/4, we put an entrance reducer in there and we put a screen over the front and the back. Our shipping boxes, which got the solid bottoms, that they don't have the standard bottom board. Those have 1.5 inch hole in the front and one in the back, and the screen across the back. Now we're putting the 1.5 inch hole in the front, 2 inches from the bottom up. In the back, we put it 2 inches from the top down. That way you get upward and outward ventilation.
Okay, because I was, some of my boxes don't have the front entry, and that's why I was wondering if I should just, because I was thinking about using like the flat plywood, like you were saying, for the top and the bottom. Yeah, and then if I want to move them, I can just take the top off, set it on the deal, pick up the whole box and set it over on top of it type thing, and then just have a round entrance in the front.
Yeah.
And then the vent in the back.
Yeah. Yeah, that works. I mean, you have to do whatever you can save time at, because once you get numbers up, you don't have time to play in the bee yard. You got to get things done.
Yeah, I'm working full time, so I got 10 hives now, and it's enough to keep me busy.
Yeah.
Anything else, Edward?
Yeah, the other thing I was going to ask, those pails you're using, do they have, are you getting them without the handles or with the handles?
They come with a metal, well, they come with a, it's like a coat hanger type handle. But it's got a plastic little grip that don't hurt your hand. We buy them from Uline. Now, what they call a one-way. When you snap that lid on, you have to drill that lid out for your plug, and then you drill your holes for feeding in that plug. When the plugs wear out, you just put a new plug in.
Okay, yeah, because I got the plugs from him, and then he, on his website, he had a spot to order the buckets, and I called them, and they're like a month out before they even get any in. So
everything is way behind.
Yeah.
If you're in the business very much right now, I'd suggest order frames, because we're getting ready to put in an order for about 50,000 frames.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen, we had a FedEx truck come down there this summer and delivered pallets of frames. You know, we burned through those frames like it's going out of style.
Okay. So I need to, and then having the handles makes it easier probably to carry 2 or 3 at a time in each hand.
I can carry 3 in each hand. Now, if there's a little bit of a honey flow, we fill them about half full, and that's straight syrup. Springtime, you probably could cut that syrup a little bit. I know there's a lot of beekeepers cut it 50%, but we find that if you run it straight, you don't have to feed as often, and then they build up faster because they don't have to spend time, evaporating the water out of it.
Okay, yeah, that's what I've been trying to do. Mine is basically just about as thick as I can possibly make it. Mm-hmm. And like you were saying with the peaches syrup, that's what this looks like.
Yeah.
And they seem to go right through it. Right now, I've been using the quart jars because I don't have the buckets yet. Yeah. So
everybody starts there. I can tell you, when we moved over here to this location, that was in 88, 89, and 90, and 91. we was using canning jars with entrance feeders, you know, the front entrance. And we put beside teaching students and myself, and then using bricks in the bee yard to mark your boxes so you know what's going on. Your hands get slick or wet, and then you're dropping jars. And we was buying between a case to 3 cases of canning jars a week. So, you know, it adds up. So you got to refine what's going to make you money.
Yeah, yeah. I figured I'd use those for my queen castles from now on. Once I get my bucket set up. Oh, speaking of queen castle, is it better to have? I took a couple of 10-frame boxes and split them into 4 segments with 2 frames in each one.
Yeah.
Is it okay to use that, or is it better to do it with the smaller mini frames?
Well, you got a job, so the bigger the box, and you're going to be able to buy more time. Those mini frames and the mini boxes, they're the most economical way to produce a queen. But they're either swarming too quick on you, starving too quick, or they're honey bound. Because you only got a, you know, you got a 6 1/4 frame cut in half. That's what you got. And if you're running inside feeders, you're running basically three frames and an inside feeder. Or you run 4 frames with a bottle feeder. And if you drill it out 1.5/5/8, you can use Powerade bottles.
Okay.
If you're using Coca-Cola bottles or some type of drink bottles, those are like 3/8 or 3/4 or 7/8. But the plastic degrades so fast in the sun, about 2 weeks, they disintegrate on you.
Right. Okay. But you don't put any mesh down in between the bottle and the bees. You just let them come up to the bottle itself.
Yeah, why would you put mesh in there?
No, I was thinking about that when you were talking about flushing them down the drain. There's no screens on any of it. So
No.
yeah, no worries there.
No. There's just a lot of times I'm talking about techniques that are over a lot of people's heads because they just get started in bees. So some of them don't have the terminology down. They're calling racks that are supposed to be framed or racks or gums that are supposed to be in trees. And I mean, a lot of times it's hard to teach the basic stuff and then try to teach advanced beekeeping to people because you're omitting a lot of those basic steps they should already know.
Yeah, that's kind of why watching a whole bunch of your videos helps, because if you only watch a couple, you're kind of like, wait a second, what is this? And having to try to retrack down the little bitty
we
pieces.
try to produce as much as fast as possible. I've been so busy that I don't have time to do videos, and I took time, I guess, last week or the last 10 days, and I started shooting a few videos, and I see I get a lot more response on those.
Saw those.
We don't use a starter finisher. We, well, the one video I showed, we got 20 hives on one side of the property, and each of those hives got 100 queens going. Those are all queenless cell builders. As soon as the cell is capped, then we throw it in the incubator. And in 12 days, we graft at the 4th day, and then they're out in 10 to 11 days after that. So the grafts that was put on Wednesday, they'll be hatching out this following Monday, Sunday and Monday. And then, you know, if I brought some cells from South Georgia up here, and I made a bunch of splits up here, try to get my numbers up here. It's like when you're trying to work 2 or 3 different yards and you got 2.5 or 3 hour drive time between it, you know, you're on the road too much.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, over to Matt. Go ahead, Matt. Let's see if we can get your mute working.
There you go.
Okay, you hear me now?
Yep,
Yeah.
you're good to go.
All right, good deal. I've got a question about the oxalic acid. I just now bought a 110 oxalic vaporizer, and I've been using the one, but I've done got several hives, so it's too slow.
Yeah.
But how hot can you still use the oxalic acid? I mean, I'm getting up in the 90s now. I'm in Mississippi.
Yeah. We treated, I think the last time that we treated was warm. It was about 80, 85.
Yeah, I treated all mine again last week because it got down to 85.
Yeah.
But I don't need to treat when it gets any hotter than that, right?
Well, that is a personal thing right there. Basically, you know, I get that question a lot, but it's hard to put an answer on it because we split so much, we don't have to treat as often. If you're not treating, you're not splitting as much, you're not breaking that mite cycle as often. So your bees are building up, and if some beekeeper go down the road and they're hauling hives, you could pick up a lot of mites that way or beetles that way. So we're so isolated out there, and we're splitting. I mean, we're splitting like crazy.
Well, I'm splitting myself a lot. I'm trying to get into raising bees.
Right.
And I started this year in the 1st of March, I had 5 hives.
Mm-hmm.
I now have got 70.
There you go.
And it's all from watching your videos.
Well, good.
And
everybody's learning something.
but I'm having trouble now also with my hive starter, or a sales starter, how you want to call it. I've got a 5-frame nuke, and I know it's a little weak of bees, but at first I was having a 98% take.
Yep.
Now I've dropped down to 50.
50%.
And is it
I know
because
what you're going to say ahead of time.
Do what now?
I know just about what you're going to go with, because I run across it a lot. When you set up your hive to build cells, you're going to get really good results the first time. The second, it starts to drop off. The third time, more. About the fourth time, you're hardly going to get anything. You have to add new bees to that every time you set a graft.
Well, see, I've done that. I've raised several queens because I've been raising them since March.
Yeah.
And but now I've had some trouble off and on. You know, I said I ain't been raising bees but a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm in that learning curve. I've got a lot of issues I've run across, but I'm working through them. But now, like I said, I'm having problems not getting a very good take. And I've actually started a new hive starter, is what this one is. This is actually my second run of sales through it. And I didn't get but a really less than 50% take.
How many pounds of bees? What are you running them into? A 5-frame box?
A 5-frame. It's a 5-frame deep sitting on top of a medium.
Well, 5-frame by itself deep is more than enough. We got some behind the house in South Georgia. I think there's about 20 or 25 over there, because we show how to do it on 8-frame, 5-frame, and 10-frame. And those 5-frame, you start them out with at least 6 to 8 pounds of bees. And if you put 2 grafts on there, put 2 frames in there, you got 90 cells in there. You need to add another 3 to 4 pounds of bees.
Oh, well, see, I don't know what a pound of bee looks like.
You've got a cage, a shipping cage?
Yes.
Is it a 2-pound shipping cage?
Yeah, I've got 2 of them. I think they're either 2 or 3 pound shipping cages.
All right, if you got a 2-pound cage, take it out your bee yard, and you can make a funnel. I mean, about the easiest way is, I think it's a 22.5-degree angle. Take you a 2x6, cut that 22-degree angle on there, and run 2x6s up the side, and put some masonite on each side. Put a toilet flange on the bottom side, and put a 3-inch nipple in there, 3x3 nipple, and then that fits right down your cage. Shake your 3 to 4 frames in there and bump them down. They should touch that bottom bar where the can sits. That's 2 pounds, just a little over 2 pounds.
Okay. And how many pounds you say it needs to be in there?
If you're starting one up the first time, you need about 6 to 7 pounds.
Okay. Well, see, the one I've got now, I just went and got and put bees in it. I have no idea how many pounds.
If you get them from the same yard, then you have to cage them overnight, at least.
Yeah.
If you get them from another yard, at least a half a mile away, then you can put them in the same day.
Well, see, all my bees, I've got 50 acres of land,
Yeah.
and all my bees is on my 50 acres.
Yeah.
So, they're not very far apart.
Most of the time, if you're getting them out of your yard, on your own property, you're getting a lot of drift back. You think you're putting 2 pounds of bees in there, you've got a 1/4 pound actually going to stay there, because the majority of them is field bees. So what we're doing down there is we usually shake 20 or 25 packages from one yard, and we set them in the house with a fan and leave them overnight. We sprinkle a little water on them, and then we set them up in a queen making yard, and that way they stay. You're getting about a 99% stays. You're going to get a few come out and drift.
Okay, they'll stay. In other words, you don't try to do that down the drain stuff or cell starter, right?
Down the drain is basically done if you're shaking bees off of a frame to locate your queen. or to boost a box.
But you don't do it for no sales start or nothing like that. You just grab whatever
If
bees
you do, you'd have to shake about 8 or 10 frames in there at least, because you're doing it in the same yard, and they're going to go down the drain, come out the front, and all the field bees go right back to where they came from.
Yeah.
Nurse bees, the ones that ain't going to fly, are the only ones going to stay there. And if you don't have enough nurse bees in there, and you don't have enough pollen in that, and you're feeding those bees, you're not going to get them to draw cells. Are you
Okay.
priming your cells before you graft?
Yeah, I put them in there the day before.
No, we don't do that even. You got to prime them with royal jelly, and if you buy your royal jelly, you got to cut it by 50%.
Well, see, I ain't tried it doing that. I have not tried buying the roll jelly and doing that. All I've done is just put the cells in there the day before and taking them out, then grading my graft and then put it back, you know.
Yeah. Well,
That-
the problem when you try to teach, that's why you see there's people from a lot of places in the country, all over the place. They come here, and I tell everybody, I don't know everything about bees, but the thing is, nobody wants to teach you nothing. So there's a lot of things I made mistakes on. I try to pass it on to help people, because this is going to be a dying art. You know, if someone don't teach you, you're not going to know.
Oh, yeah.
People that sell bees, they want to sell you all the bees. They don't want to teach you nothing.
Yeah. I'll agree, because like I said, nearly everything I've learned from watching your videos.
Well, glad.
And like I said, I think I'm doing pretty good. You know, start off this year with 5, and now I've got 70. I don't know if that's kind of good or not, but
Well, you're growing. You're going to make mistakes. I tell students all the time, you know, you have to learn. You have to make mistakes. You've got to fall off the bicycle before you can learn to ride efficiently.
yeah.
You stay with it, you know, you get more proficient and you make money at it.
But see, that's I hadn't even tried to sell one yet, because I heard that other guy talking about building up your bees before you try to sell any. And I got talking to somebody here. What was the number to really say that you needed before you actually started trying to sell?
If you can get to 100 hives before you start selling, you might maintain that number. Since 1970, I've never had more bees on my property than I could sell. I've never done it. I keep saying I'm going to shut off, but it's hard to tell people no when you've been selling to somebody for several years and they bring 2 or 3 of their friends to you and they say, well, can you help them out with a couple boxes? You know, it's hard to say no.
Well, that's what my goal is, to end up with 100 plus. How late in the year do you still split? Or how late am I going to probably be safe to still split living in Mississippi?
You know, everybody in every area is going to be different. You know, you got to, if you're going to learn this, you have to learn from one person. You can't get on the internet and listen to 10 different guys, because they're going to give you 10 different directions to go.
Well, that's why I'm listening to you now.
Well, see, I split way up into October, but right now I live in North Georgia, which is 80 miles north of Atlanta.
Well, I live about I don't know if you know where Tupelo's at in
I know where
Mississippi.
Tupelo's at.
I'm just right. I live actually in Pontotoc, but I'm real between Pontotoc and Tupelo.
Mhm.
You know where Tupelo's at. You know where I'm at.
Yeah, you should be able to, you know, if you've got some experience with it, you know, September should be about your cutoff date. You should have no problem. You know, once you get numbers up, and you do it for a living, you gamble more.
Well, I don't
It's
mind
like
gambling.
when
I'm off.
people, you know, we try to make 100 splits a day, 7 days a week, and they look at you like you're crazy. If you don't do that,
Yeah.
you're not staying in business.
Yeah, I understand that, because I've been gambling all the way this year. That's how I've got to 70, and just had 5 hives. And these wasn't big hives. They was 10 frames, but they were single 10s.
Right.
And I've been pushing it, not really know what I'm doing.
Well,
But from here on out, I need to be making splits with heavy splits and not light splits, don't I?
well, if you've got to plan on feeding them, no matter what anybody tells you, you're going to have to feed. A lot of feed. And as the fall, you know, the year goes on, you're going to have to make a little bit heavier splits. You're going to have to compensate for heat. You have to compensate for numbers. You're going to have stimulant in there too, because if the queen starts to shut down on you and don't want to lay as much, you got to get her going again.
Well, see, all mine is I know I'm not feeding what I need to be feeding. I know that.
You got 70 hives.
Yeah.
You should be going through at least right now, at least 200 to 500 pounds of sugar.
I'm going through about 200 pounds a week.
Yeah, you're a little light, but they're not starving.
But I'm feeding them. I'm open feeding right now.
Get
And
feed on the hives, and you're gonna have less robbing, and you're gonna have more results too.
well, see, I don't have enough feeders for all of them because I wasn't expecting to grow as fast as I did.
That's
And, I've heard you say that
everybody
problem.
says, I got enough equipment in the
And
spring.
but I've been looking into the buckets.
Yeah.
And but I looked at that website y'all talking about getting the buckets, but they don't have no lids. It's got the gaskets.
No, you
They
want
got-
to go to Uline, and Uline makes a lot of different style buckets. You get that 1 gallon bucket. There's no gasket in it. It's a self-sealing lid. When you tap it on, it's a one way. It's got a zipper on the side. When you pull that zipper, you can't use that lid no more. So you have to drill your lid out. You have to buy a good Forester bit, not a cheap one. Drill them lids out and then put a plug in there.
Okay.
And then the plugs, you got to drill them. We bought the Chinese ones, the first 1,000 or 2,000, they're about a dime a piece. They degrade so fast and they just ain't worth nothing. And we paid.
Where are you getting your plugs at now then?
The last ones we bought, we got 1,000 or 2,000 from Greg. They're a heavy duty. They're about 25 or 30 cents a piece, but they last, really good.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind that, if they'll hold up.
Yeah. But bucket feeders, it's when you first start out and you start telling people the things that they need, they laugh at you. You say, we need to order you 100 buckets. Well, that's $300. I don't want to spend $300 for buckets. Go to Walmart and get them for free.
Oh, it ain't the same thing. I understand that. When I first started out, I thought everything would be fine just with what hives I had and feeding hive top feeders and stuff. But that takes too much time, just like what you've always said.
Yeah.
I've found out it's only me dealing with the bees.
Right.
I've got 70 hives now, and they're not all in the same spot.
Mm-hmm.
So they're working me to death.
Well, you get up to double that or triple that, you'll stay on your toes.
Yeah. So I'm looking for ways to cut corners and stuff. And I've seen if I use the bucket, I don't have to build the hive top part. All I need is a lid, drill a hole in it.
Your next thing to do is got to get a location for a bulk sugar, or then the next one to be get premix. See, we used to buy sugar by the ton in big, they call them tote bags. They got 4 handles on there, and you need a forklift to pick them up. And we go down and pick 4 or 5 bags up at a time. But when you start spending 4 hours a day just to mix sugar and then go around your bee yards, half the day's gone. So if you buy a premix, you're paying a little bit more, but you're saving so much in time.
But see, I'd like
the bees.
Yeah, but I'm just getting started, so I don't have a lot of money to deal with all this. So I'm limited on that part. I mean, I could throw more at it, but don't want to throw a whole lot until I start making something.
Well, you can start selling bees. I mean, all you'd have to do, get on Facebook, put an ad up. I'm sure you can sell all the bees you can advertise.
But I'm wanting to get my goal first. I'd like to get my 100. Because I'm like you said, if you start selling, I'm going to be knocked right down at the beginning and have to start all over again.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to reach my goal, but I'm planning on being there by the end of the year. That's why I was asking you, how late can I split and be safe with it?
Start on it. If you're going to lose a few hives between now and springtime, don't get discouraged.
I've done lost 4 or 5 from them. Part of them had just flown out on me.
Yeah.
And I've had one to die out on me. Now I never did understand that one.
Hey, Matt.
But I've had two or three fly out on me.
Hey, Matt, I'm going to have to interrupt you. We got a couple other questions and we're getting almost close to the clock.
I was pretty much done anyway. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Over to Pat. Go ahead, Pat.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Don, we're right in the path of tropical hurricane Isaias, and we've had a tremendous amount of rain. What are some recommendations you have for dealing with excess moisture from all the rain?
Well, I just mentioned I'm putting those holes in. We got a lot of rain in South Georgia, And that cross ventilation seems to be doing a lot better. I noticed we don't get the bearding that we was doing. The bees will evaporate a lot of that moisture in the hive if they have a place to evaporate it to. And if you just got a standard opening in the front there, then it's hard to do it. And even with a screen bottom board, the ground is soaked. You've got moisture coming up through the ground, through the screens. So you're fighting a battle at both ends, really. That's the only suggestion I could say you could do.
Is the extra ventilation?
Yeah, and to make sure your hives is up at least above your knee, you know, keep them off the ground as much. And keep them in the sun more too. I mean, I don't know how your yard is. We got.
Oh, I don't have any trees.
Yeah.
I don't have any trees. I'm out in the middle of a field. I got lots of sun.
But you should get some drying out. It's just, you got to be patient.
Yeah, we got standing water everywhere. We had a couple of tornadoes touch down all around us, and a tremendous amount of rain came through with it. More rain, I think, than we usually get with hurricanes, for it just to be such a little tropical storm. But the way it swirled out across the ocean and right on top of us. So we just got dumped.
There's going to be a lot of lost bees up the coast.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a good opportunity to sell some bees.
Yeah.
And for Matt, going into winter, you need to have a cutoff point for when you're going to make splits. I know Don splits all year, but Don's got a lot of years of experience. Don't get so weak in the late fall that you don't make it through the winter. Don't split more than you're willing to lose. So be careful about that. It's easier to build up in spring and split from there your first year. That would be my only hesitancy, is that you don't have quite the experience Don has to split that late into the fall. That's it.
Okay. Over to Ernest. Go ahead, Ernest.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I took Don's idea last week. He said about down the drain and then put a golf ball in it. I thought, well, I'll never find a golf ball. So I made this up, and I got a tennis ball on it. And I found a pin frame lid, and I drilled it out, and then that fits right in there. Fits right in there, and it's always with it. So you don't have to worry about looking for a ball or something to put in there. So I just thought Don needs to get the credit for all this, because I've been following him now for I don't know how many years, but
I get all the credit I need when people tell me they're successful.
So these little nuggets is what makes it interesting. So I've used that already, and it works quite well. But I had a tree to come down across one of my hives, and it took the whole stand, turned them upside down overnight, and crushed cement blocks right into crumbles. So I lost that one hive completely. It just exploded. And the other one seemed to be working, so I guess the queen's in them. So I turned them right side up and put them back on. I only got one sting on the leg, and that wasn't too bad with all the upsetting and chainsawing and cutting the tree off and having the backhoe and lifting pieces off of it. So that was my exciting time this week. So
a learning thing.
Yeah. I'm learning if there's any trees that looks like you need to come down, they're going to come down ahead of time.
There you go.
Yeah, that's all I have. I just wanted to give Don the credit there for a good idea there with that down the drain.
Okay. Over to Edward. Go ahead, Edward.
I have a question. I have of my most all my hives are 5 frames that I've been splits with, and some of them are drawing out comb well, and some of them are just filling out the comb that they have and aren't really drawing too much. I don't have a lot of drawn out comb, being that this first year, basically. So what I've been doing is I've been putting sheets, solid plastic sheets on, the black sheets, in frames and then letting them draw out essentially like a bar. I'm not actually putting starter strips. I'm just putting a vertical bar in the middle, and they're drawing straight down off of that. And then I'm using the plastic sheets as guides, and they seem to be working okay, but some of them are just filling the combs and they're not drawing more combs out. They're and a lot of them I'm feeding. So is there a way to get them to draw more combs out versus just filling them with the
Usually
feed?
this time of the year, if they're not drawing comb, then they're not on a honey flow or they're starving. You might
Well,
just be
but that,
giving them enough sugar just to keep them alive.
I'm using those quart bottles on top, and I'm keeping it to them the whole time.
Squirt
And
bottle on
and
top.
what they're doing is they're filling in the frames with that,
Yeah.
but they're not drawing new comb. And it's like the comb is mostly full as far as liquid, but then they're not drawing anymore.
How old are these nukes?
I started this spring with 2 nooks and a package, and now I have 10 hives, plus I have 3 4-way queen castles. So I've kind of been splitting it between all
If you've
that.
been feeding them and they don't draw, my next thing, what I would suggest is maybe you split so much that you don't have enough nurse bees in there, or the queen is not replacing fast enough to get you enough nurse bees. Because if you don't have
Okay.
enough nurse bees in there, they're not going to draw any kind of wax at all.
Okay. So I might have split them too fast.
That's one suggestion I'd have. I mean, I
Okay.
usually go down the list and usually if they're not drawn and you're not, because you're not feeding them, like there's people that give them Kool-Aid in the summertime and expect them to draw full sheets out. They won't do it. And
Yeah.
when people
No,
start
I'm giving them
chewing
that
holes in the
heavy.
wax, I know they're starving.
Yeah, I'm giving them that heavy syrup. I mean, I'm doing the syrup to the point where you can't the rest of the sugar. I mean, it's almost like the sugar's not crystallizing. When I pour it into a mason jar, if I wanted to say water it down a little bit, if I put water in on the top of it, it stays separate until I shake the thing up. It's so thick.
Yeah.
So that sounds right though, because some of the hives I did split, basically leaving them 2 or 3 frames of bees, and that was it.
You might have to, look at the bees, and sometimes you can judge if you got old bees in there. Look and see if they're old bees, if they're young bees, if they're dusty looking. Some people can't tell the difference from one to the other, but a lot of times this time of the year, if you got something look real greasy looking, real wet looking, they've been out robbing something,
Okay.
It's hard to describe how to identify bees.
Yeah, I know when I first basically when I got those 3 hives started and they boosted up, they were doing so well that I pulled frames out, and it was really cool to be able to see the brand new bees. You could tell. I took pictures of it and then went back and looked at my pictures, and I had frames where I had anything from pollen to honey to eggs, larvae, the whole bit. And then on top of it, you see the dusty bees that have just hatched, and their wings are still crossed, and a whole bit. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
So,
it might just be that the bees is old.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, and last question tonight is John Zirkle. Go ahead, John.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Hey, Pat, I just wanted to follow up with about that ventilation. That was always a killer for me. And what I started doing with all my hives is I slide the top box forward, and that gives me a crack the entire width of my hive, and I can regulate that down to 1/4 of an inch where it'll get evaporation, or I can make it big enough that they use it as an entrance. So when robin happens, I could just slide that box back a little bit. It really eliminated my that problem with ventilation, because I don't have any holes drilled in my boxes. I just use those vents, and if I need more, I cheat the second box out. So I end up with what's that, the width of the box by however deep. So you may want to try that. That really seems to have worked for me here in southeastern Pennsylvania. For what it's worth. That's all I had to say.
Okay, then we are right on time tonight. So thank you, Don. Thank you, everyone. We'll see everyone in 2 weeks.
Everybody have a cool summer. See you
All
in
right.
2 weeks.
Stay busy, Don.
Thank you. Bye.